Hey, it's Dave from Bullpen Cycles. You probably remember this small Harley we bought at a swap meet in Ole, and it ran, but then it would get hot and die and be hard to start. Later we discovered a cracked crankcase. My guess is the crack was expanding with the heat. Crankcase would lose pressure and the bike would die. It's probably why it was sold in the first place. We got a used motor, swapped the top end and the ignition out, changed the seals, and we're going to see if that runs. But first, before we do that, we're going to take the motor apart. This will be a good exercise and see if we can repair the crack in the crankcase. So as I read the book, this comes apart with the assemblies remaining in the right side half. You loosen all those screws, and there's a special tool that lets you to pull the cases apart. I don't have the tool. We're going to try to split the cases. It says we need a gear puller to pull this gear off first, which if the assemblies are remaining in the left side, you probably don't need to do that. But we've got to drop the crank because we've got to repair a crack here, if it's repairable. So we're going to pull this, see if we can get the engine apart, and see what this crankcase looks like to see if it can be repaired. Got a Chinese puller set. See what's better, Italian engineering or Chinese puller? Well, that won't get in there. No, that ain't gonna work. Well, we're stuck already. Gotta find the right puller. So we're back trying to remove this gear. I have a bearing separator, which normally you'd get under there and pull it out with a 2-jaw puller, but there's not enough room to get this under there. So I bought this puller on, I think it was Amazon. We're gonna see if it works. I'm gonna put a socket down there. I'm going to try to protect the end of the crank since it's open and split. And I think there's a cap for that. And of course I put it somewhere else. Almost threw it out. That should center it pretty well. Better view. We're going to put some heat on the subject. Well, I hope this works. I hope it works easy. I hate force. All right, here goes nothing. Please work. Helps if I go the right way, huh? Hey! All right. I'm always worried about brute force, but it's off. Now we'll split those cases. You got a burn blister. You'd be surprised how hot those heat guns get with no flame. So here's the next tool that you need. You need one of these. This is the Matsko version. I have the snap-on version too. I think the Matsko version works better. You know, if you want to loosen it, you twist it in the off position. You want to tighten it, you twist it in the on position. You don't have to turn a head or nothing. And that's to get these screws out, the ones that are too tight. I usually just throw a Chinese socket on it. Anything that fits whatever cheap adapter I have. These get boogered up and you throw them out and buy new ones. But when they're too tight, it just takes a little whack. Sometimes more than one. Tensioning it in the loose position gives me about 1/8 to 1/4 turn, which is just enough. Get them all started without rounding them out and being forced to drill them. And if it still slips, put a little valve lapping compound on there. 9 times out of 10, you'll be able to save it without being forced to drill. We might get lucky and have this case apart in a few minutes. And there's a retaining snap ring on that shaft. Why are you flashing? I got this piece of crap from Harbor Freight. Let's see if it works. Oh, come on. Got it. Let's give it some heat. We are just going to tap lightly, see what happens. Ooh, look at that, what happened there? That's going to move. That moved the case. What we don't know is if this was a part and they put it together with goo. Hitting it with a rubber end. Now, sometimes I take a butter knife that I flattened out to get in here. Right now I'm just using a feeler gauge. You don't want to really use a screwdriver. This is so I can see if there's any gasket cement sticking it up. Alright, so we're stuck a little bit at that engine mount. We're good here. Stuck a little bit right here. I want it to go this direction. That's the wrong direction. Alright, it's coming. It's coming apart. Now we want to get it so that everything remains in the lower half. Here's my dowel pin that was sticking it. Too close. That shaft comes came with it, huh? And that rattle was this thrust washer. I call that success. Unfortunately, this is the case that I have to repair. So I've got to get all that crap out. And remember how it goes back together. So we'll see if this works to hold them together. Beat the crank out without removing the transmission. I'm going to beat on the crank directly. Will this work? I think the answer is yes. Transmission is in. Alright, here's the crack. It runs from here, down here, over through here. That's the crack. Now, some folks say, JB weld it. I think you're asking for problems. I'll have a machinist look at it, but I don't think this is repairable. So we decided not to fix the original motor. The case was cracked, and I'm guessing that was a flaw in the casting from its original manufacturer. It's got 1,300 miles on it. That's probably why it only had 1,300 miles on it. It's probably been acting up since it was new. We went with the replacement bottom end, swapped over the top end, changed the crank seals, put in a small end bearing, some other stuff, and I think you'll be happy with the result.
One of these as a kid, and I rode it to college every day my freshman year. My dad had a Triumph. I could barely keep up on the flats, but never on the hill. Good first bike. Teach your wife how to ride bike. This bike, go round bike, sounds pretty good. Idling okay. Second. Not a lot of power. Now I got this when I was in college. I had an orange one. This is the year after the TX125. This is the first year for the SS125. They also made an SX125. They were small bikes, but they looked like a full-size bike. That's why I like them over the similar Yamaha, or, well, back then it would have been an ME100 Indian. It had the Fuji motor. They just didn't look like real bikes. It just Harley did, to me anyway, and I was really excited to get it. Now it's just kind of boring, brings back some memories, but if you're looking for a fit bike, or get something a little different, run down to the 7-Eleven. Get a beer or something if that's your thing. I'm gonna get all muddy if I go that way. So let's see what this thing does. Sounds pretty good. For a U-turn.